Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about why money is broken. So I have a little funny story. When I visited India a few years back to meet some relatives, I talked to my grandfather about his properties and I asked him how much he bought them for and how much they were today. And he told me that many years back he bought an apartment for very little money quite a while back, and today that same apartment is worth millions of euros. So this statement kind of just blew my mind. I was like, what? How is that possible? So we will be discussing the reasons of as to why such things are possible. And we're going to be taking a closer look at the money in your pocket. And we will be assessing how well it does the three jobs it has. The three ideas we stated last video. Well, the first job, is your money accepted as a way of paying transactions? Is it a good medium of exchange? Well, this one's an easy one. Yeah, take the euro for example. 340 million people actively use the euro to make large transactions from all over the world. It excels as a medium of exchange, not just works, it excels. The second job, is your money a good way of stating prices? Is it a good unit of account? Well, for something to be an effective unit of account, you need the value of said unit to be consistent. If you take Germany in 1921 to 1923, it was experiencing hyperinflation. This is because the German mark was worthless. The government was printing so much money that people would have to be paid wages like twice a day, or the price of bread would increase every 1 hour, something like that. Obviously, this is a very extreme case, but it's always important to remember that each currency has a floating exchange rate. This is quite important. A floating exchange rate essentially means that each currency has its own exchange rate in relation to other currencies. Floating exchange rates is why you'll hear things from your dad, such as the pound has strengthened against the dollar, or how the euro has dropped in relation to the pound. Stuff like that. If you were to spend or work with one currency only, it would be quite hard to notice a difference in day to day life. But let's say, for example, you go on holiday to the States after 10 years and notice that a beer, for example, costs more, or a hotel of the same caliber costs less. Let's say you exchange your pound in Spain for 1 euro 16, and now a week later you exchange the same pound for 1 euro 20. What happened? Well, has the value of the pound increased or has the value of the euro decreased? Well, both. This little example shows how no currency in the farthest ends of the earth has a fixed exchange rate. They always change. But in day to day life, we don't really notice it a lot because they are manageable fluctuations. But if we look at the value of currencies over time, it's quite more problematic. I will get into this later with graphs and visual representations. The third job, is your money an effective store of value? Well, this one's a big one, so you guys might need to buckle in and hang in tight. Well, as we've seen so far, minor fluctuations in currencies can seem so insignificant and so inconsequential that they can be deceiving and you can be deceived into believing that the currency is perfectly stable. So when prices go up, which they always do since the past since time has existed, since money's existed, it's natural to believe that this is caused by a change in the product itself. But now, with our newfound knowledge, it can be said that the prices have not moved at all. But the value of the currency has changed instead. Think about it. The apartment my grandfather bought back in the day for an X amount of money is equivalent to millions of euros today. You can buy the same amount of things with the money that my grandfather used to buy that apartment that you can with a million euros today. It's the same thing. Your buying power is the same. I know this is a little mind bending, but the illusion that money is a fixed value is a tough one. So I'll try to explain it in two different angles. Okay, let's think about it like this. Let's swap out the regular pound with the currency I mentioned was a good one, gold. We know gold has been used extensively as a medium of exchange throughout history, as we've seen last video. So it will be interesting to see what it would look like. Let's start by taking a look at houses in the UK over time priced both in pounds and gold. If you look at chart 1, you can see the UK property priced in pounds as the solid line and, and in gold the dashed line. Here the solid line represents the average price of a house in the UK measured by the Nationwide Building Society in pounds. Rather than showing the actual price, the graph is showing it in an index. Kind of like how in the year 1970 the price was 100, for example, and in this case all future changes will be relative to 100, making it easier to read. For example, if the price of something in the index at 100 would be 50,000, when the graph shows an index of 110, a 10% increase, the price of said product would be 55,000, also a 10% increase. The solid line has increased from 100 to 5,000 in 2020. In other words, the prices of houses have increased 50 times. They've increased 50-fold. Yikes. Now, the dashed line measures the same thing, but in gold. So instead of asking how many pounds a house would be, it would be asking how many grams or how many ounces of gold the house would be. What this dashed line shows us is crazy. There are almost no fluctuations. What this basically means is that when buying a house with gold, it would have costed us the same amount of gold it did back in 1970 than in 2020. If you don't believe this or just think it's prevalent with this only the pound, let's look at the American dollar. Just like chart 1, chart 2 is also indexed to 100, this time in 1900, to show that this is a trend for all currencies in the world for all times. And again, we see the same pattern. The relationship between gold and the dollar was close to similar up to 1970. That is where we see a great difference between the two. If you would like another representation of how your money is becoming worthless, here is the buying power of the pound. I do apologize for the little bad graphics of the graph, but sorry, we'll have to work around it. But it's still possible to see the general idea of this graph. Alright, let's get back to the scorecard and see how our money is fulfilling its three jobs. As a medium of exchange, it works. It works quite good. Okay, as a unit of account, it works quite well in the short term. Over the long term, obviously, there are going to be fluctuations, but it works relatively okay. But as a store of value, it's atrocious. If we were to look at the buying power chart again, the pound has lost over 99% of its value. That's mental. If you had 100 pounds in the 1900s, that pound is worth 1 pound now. The stuff you could buy with that is basically relative to 1 pound. It's lost 99% of its value. It's atrocious. So now you might be wondering why. What is causing our money to decrease in value so quickly over time? Well, that is what I will be answering over the course of my next videos. In summary, modern currencies don't have a fixed value. When the price of something has changed, it is important to consider the value of the currency changing as well as the item itself. When looking at prices of things in gold rather than pounds or any other currency, they have stayed the same over time, which suggests that prices have stayed the same, but currencies have decreased in value. It's not the price is the same, but it's the value of the currency where the problem lies. Lastly, our money is stable in the short term, but our buying power has drastically decreased over the last 100 to 200 years and almost halved in the last 20 years alone. That's crazy. So, thank you for listening, and in the next video, we'll be talking about why prices always go up. Hope you have a good day.